All right, ladies and gentlemen, for the sake of redundancy, what happened in the movie Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events with Jim Carrey? Um, what happened in that movie? What happened to their parents? What led to that series of unfortunate events? So in my life, I have to ask. I asked somebody yesterday for $2, or $3 for a gallon of milk. In reality, it was for a refreshment. And what I'm saying is that, okay, think about the infrastructure, right? The incorporated city of Elk Grove and all the that we fought to keep it, right? Why do we fight to keep it? Not because we're winners or we're gambling or anything, but because we need to use it as forensics, because this is all tools, so we have something to figure out. So what happened to the Baudelaire family? I had to ask for money, and so let's just say the Baudelaires were rich, and let's just say the kids had to ask for money. And that's the thing. Why did that need to happen? If the parents were rich, why did that need to happen? And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where you discover the nuclear family. You discover that what it takes to have a family. Not what it takes to have a family, but you discover about honor, you discover integrity, you discover your word. And that is your bond. And so it could have been that back in the day, right? So let's say that today we're in 2026, but let's go back to when people were doing transactions, right? So it's frowned upon for me today, 2026, to ask my parents for money. It just is that way. My parents don't want me to do it, and I do it because of, I explain it on my YouTube channel, systems of control. Now, these same systems of control are what the Baudelaire family could have been fighting against. And for some reason, they were not able to, well, not for some reason, parents do that out of discipline, to discipline their child. Don't ask for money. So that way they go out there and they test the waters or test the market, correct? Now, the problem here in my situation, I was born in 1994 in this real estate development since 1996, and I was not so this incorporated city, the city of Elk Grove was incorporated in the year 2000, and basically, guys, September 11th happened, and for me, I didn't, after that, it's like I didn't care about anything, just to stick to what I know, like not really trustworthy of things. And that lifestyle, that type of thinking frustrated me. I needed an outlet, and that's when I sought like marijuana or weed, ganja, cannabis, whatever you call it. But I sought out a remedy, and to get that remedy, I had to go into the streets and hang out with people that I didn't like to hang out with. And so, like, ladies and gentlemen, these are the effects of those events that transpired. Not only is that the effects of it, but it was set up. So I have to think ahead. Things are not like a natural, like how I thought things were. No, people have the rate of reproduction is extremely high, and they are keeping us in like a Truman Show type of thing, and they want to be gods over us. And that's the thing, guys. They don't understand that there is no future without like recollection, without knowing where you came from. And it's almost like these guys are going off of a cliff, and they want to just eliminate us because they don't want to go off a cliff. But they're going to go off of a cliff inevitably, and they don't want to go alone, so they just have to keep enough of us so that way they don't feel alone. And then I have to provide hope. Not only hope, but I have to like provide a solution to this problem. And so this is how I'm living my life, to articulate what is going on with humanity, the human species, ladies and gentlemen. Like why children are killing their mothers, why daughters are killing their fathers and not respecting themselves, or what is driving that psychology, other than the misuse of the tools and the infrastructure to keep people spinning their wheels. So we have to understand that we're not spinning our wheels in the sense that we have freedom of movement, dexterity, we can talk, we can write. Don't take that for granted. Don't take for granted your digestive system, your immune system, okay? Your kidney, liver functions, okay? So basically, we can spiral upwards, okay? And yeah, basically we're getting away with moving, and that, ladies and gentlemen, we already know is it's not good to not be able to get away with moving, or to being enslaved. That's called being held captive. That's called being a held prisoner. And a lot of people are being kept in the dark about this terminology and how to defend themselves. So, ladies and gentlemen, another narrative that I have to counter is that during my high school period, the events that transpired was that I told my best friend at the time, who is my opposition, Jalen Brown from Monterey Trail High School, to not join the Marines because, like, there was something else. There was something else going on that basically is what I'm telling you. Like, we had to figure out what was going on in this town. And at the same time, when I was trying to figure out what was going on in this town, he knew exactly what was going on in this town and used that against me because I was trying to figure out what was going on. And not only that, but to the degree that he did that, abusing my female human childbearing counterpart. So basically, he has that narrative to say that I kept him away from success because I was greedy and grudge because he kept my girl and da 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 da. All this narrative, right? That I kept him away from success. So my counter narrative to that is that I still am figuring out what's going on, and I found out that he has there's no way that he could not know what is going on during that period of time. And he always wants to hold that truth over my head. So that if I were to work with him in security or work with him wherever, hypothetically, how they want to stage this city of Elk Grove, that I would always know that he did something bad, but never be able to pinpoint what he did. So thank God for YouTube, ladies and gentlemen. So during the time I was trying to figure things out, what was going on, and go and push for good, because we were the only ones, ladies and gentlemen, that were not part of that game, that were not part of that poker table, that we were not part of that matrix law of mafia, casino, deep, extreme evil, okay? How you say? These people that are in those types of depths, you know, like where they have to bet houses or bet their women and stuff like that. So we were supposed to rescue these people that are in those types of depths. But what did he do? He put me and everybody else in that bind. He took ownership of that game and took that king of the world type. So instead of helping the people that were in this debt to people that never really should have been in debt in the first place, because they were doing all kinds of experiments on human bodies that we didn't know how to articulate, now that we know how to articulate and defend ourselves, they're going to want to reap the benefits as well. Jalen Brown's going to be the one to say that, okay, whatever, man, I don't care. As long as things get done, as long as these people that are in these debts that make no sense, they have a voice to be able to say, hey, okay, since you guys have the guns, this is a case here, and be a judge the best that you can, you know, as humanly possible. And that's how we prove ourselves, ladies and gentlemen. That's how I have to prove myself that I was not in that no type of poker table debt. But it feels like I was supposed to get, like, as a child, I was supposed to be abused a lot, you know? And I could still feel that to this day. My abusers that are in my peripheral, in the surrounding local area. So we were supposed to help these people get out of that and help them see what was going on. There was one reason, and that's because God, that's my only purpose in life. God sent me down here to save them because there was something that they could not say. They didn't have that perspective. So I was from the outside looking in, seeing the situation, what's going on, and I was the only one, we were the only ones being able to help. And I thought Jaylen Brown was with me. And he was supposed to help build me up, help me be strong, teach me all he knew about whatever bad things his grandfather did. He was supposed to teach me everything so that way we could correct what he did and save his life. Or save him from dismemberment or whatever. But that, ladies and gentlemen, has reached a point to where he failed, and it's gone too far, ladies and gentlemen. And there are going to be other people that try to say, oh, no, he didn't fail. We're going to help you, help him, and this and that. These are the overreaching aunts, these Rosa, these Blanca Osuna type people. They say, oh, we'll help you. We can do anything. No, you can't. You made a mistake, and you're going to pay for it. You're going to stay away from me and my family. And if I ever get married, you better run from me. So, ladies and gentlemen, they're desensitizing my female human childbearing counterparts' sexual reproductive organs. That's one common denominator that I notice they're doing. They're desensitizing their sexual reproductive organs. And then they're trying to, whatever narrative about pineal gland and all that, I don't care about all that. All I know is that it's desensitized, right? And you don't have to be knowing about all this esoteric pineal gland stuff to know that that's wrong, to know what desensitization means. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I'm representing myself every single day because not many people are fortunate to be able to be in this position. And I wouldn't be in this position if my cousin Javier Becerra didn't devote himself to, studying or hitting the books or whatever he did to, be in the position where he is, to where he can hopefully be a signal to the rest of the world for me to help spread this message across. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot help Malone Brown Descendants and Friends. I cannot help Jaylen Brown Descendants and Friends without being called a traitor. Not only a traitor, ladies and gentlemen, not to any nation, but to God, to my God-given purpose of freeing these people from their debt that they never were supposed to be owed. And that's where you have my YouTube channel to explain what they have done. So let's go back to the old cowboy western days, like that YouTube 707 channel. Let's go back to those days when people were gambling and playing, and you had brothels and stuff like that, the old wild west, right? So today in Elk Grove, because the city's incorporated, we're finding out how they cheated back then. And that, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I'm being a traitor to. If I help Malone Brown Descendants and Friends, or if I help Jaylen Brown Descendants and Friends, I'm being a traitor to those forensics. Because those cowboys, those westerners, the hard men from the past, you better bet we're going to find out what went wrong. People didn't. All right, so all the Spanish influenza, all the millions of people killed and stuff like that, guys, all that is going to be understood. It happened. Whatever happened already has happened. But at least we're going to understand why it happened. Even if we can't save ourselves, at least we're going to know what happened. At least we're going to know and see our enemy in the face. Because for a long time, they've had this false smokescreen. They had this false, Wizard of Oz type auditory hallucination control over us, guys. Not everybody is bad, ladies and gentlemen. Some people, they have no choice. They have no choice but to be those psychics or those seers, right? So hopefully, even if they are psychics and seers, they know that to make money off of that, you have to have something else, you know, like skills and stuff, you know, and hopefully you can understand and use the incorporated city of Elk Grove to your advantage, and the language and the YouTube channels, guys, the resources available, you know, because without that, guys, we literally would not be able to move. We wouldn't be able to do anything. It's very easy to enslave humanity, and that's what people don't want to know, you know, or want people to know. And it's almost happening like without our hand. That's that thing where somebody started something that they couldn't stop, and then we have to stop it. And Jaylen Brown, Descent and Friends, is making it harder. He's spinning that narrative in a way to where it's harder for me to describe what is going on. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this Applebee's south of my Inglorious property, when I got out of Rio Consumas Correctional Center and got my employment, you know, I was threatened. A kid about 18 came up to me with a knife. He was a chef, and he said, "I'm going to stab you," right in front of the manager. And that manager looked at it like it was normal business, normal operation. And then that happened, right? So then I look at her, I said, I think we continued talking, or I don't know what happened. I tried to ignore it because I was still in my probationary period. I can't even believe, ladies and gentlemen, that actually happened. And that was a black male, skinny, about 5'6", 5'4", dark black male. So I can't believe that happened, ladies and gentlemen. And so you have to understand that for me to be not only alive right now, but to be able to articulate what is going on, it's cost people. And it's almost like I have no choice but to bleed people's lives, you know, like to bleed all these people that care about like service, or that care about to know what's going on, all the good people. It's almost like these people have baited every single good person. And that's the specific duty of my neighbor directly to the east, the female there, the brown female. And who knows, maybe that whole operation that's going on there. But these are the people that are bleeding the good people dead, not me. Since I was born, it was being blamed on me, I think. I think that's why they took a picture of me on my first picture was of me on the toilet, because I think they were mad that just by me being alive, that the narrative is that I'm wasting so many resources. The narrative is that I'm running up the debt of the United States Treasury, whatever, national debt. That's the narrative that they're trying to put on me. And that's what I have to counter. That's the narrative I have to counter. And I am countering that. It is proven, ladies and gentlemen, with the city of Elk Grove, California, and the events that have transpired since its incorporation, or since its construction, ladies and gentlemen. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening. Once again, I was born in 1994 and in this real estate development since 1996. Genuine Education stopped on September 11, 2001. At least it altered, or maybe it didn't stop, but it was different, okay? So that was at Raymond Case Elementary School, 2nd grade. And thank you for listening.